a little insight. So that's your pledge for today. And as we proceed on, I'll turn it back over to Reverend Williams. And Angelique is watching on YouTube or at least off-site at another location. So again, we congratulate Angelique for her Pledge of Allegiance and Dr. New for having her granddaughter featured.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. This time we'll have a motion for adoption of the agenda.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
It's been moved. Is there a second? And second by Dr. Mickelson. Any discussion? Ready for the vote?
So I will have to vote by hand as I don't have the agenda.
All right.
Well, I vote aye.
Thank you. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lister. Next item is school highlights. Dr. Anderson.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Knoll, who's on with us, and it's his student who we're highlighting. And I know I saw her on the screen with a couple of kiddos on her lap. So, Mr. Knoll.
Good evening, everybody. I am proud to introduce Hope Street Academy Senior of the Month. Her name is Ariana Hughes. She has been at Hope Street for 3 years. When she came to Hope Street, she had 0 high school credits. So in the 3 years that she's been at Hope Street, she's put herself in a position that she's going to graduate this spring. Hi, Ari. She's going to graduate this spring. She's going to have earned her CNA license, her home health aide license. This spring, she's getting her phlebotomy certification through WIT. And she's managed to do all of that while raising twins, 2.5-year-olds, Serena and Maya. And I still can't tell them apart. So I call them Cutie 1 and Cutie 2. I want to introduce you to Ariana Hughes, Hope Street Academy Senior of the Month.
Well, join us in seeing the video of Ariana Hughes. And we're going to turn it over to Ms. Hughes for you to ask questions for her to answer.
Hi, guys. My name is Ariana Hughes and I am a senior at Hope Street Academy. I am a single mom. I had my girls at 15, twins, they're identical. I came here with like 0 credits. I'm graduating in May.
Ariana she's just she's a great kid, a great student, a great person. When Ariana came to us, she was severely behind in credits, and she'll tell you that. I'm not even sure if she knew thought she would graduate at the time. And as she came to Hope Street and she just blossomed and matured, she's just grown into an awesome individual.
You know, once in a while you get a student that comes to Hope Street and it's good for the kid. She walked into here, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to her. The diversity she's gone through with her life. I mean, Hope Street, a place to land, you can always come here flat-footed. She's got a good will, she's got a good heart. Man, she really wants to do good for her kids.
She's very much a leader, you know, she's a good mom, and so she's raising her twins and getting to school. She actually got one of her photography pieces into the Wolf's photography kind of display during the art walk. And she just was always ready to learn in class and has a good attitude.
They just help me through. They bring me up. My other school, I couldn't even do that with any of my teachers.
She loves all the teachers. All her teachers love her. You know, she stops and says hi to all of them all the time. And I just wish really good things for her and hope that her dreams come true.
I want to become a RN because I wanted to do it for them and myself. I wanted to be a good role model for my daughters. So I already have my CNA license, and next semester I'll be getting my phlebotomy, and then I'll be going to Allen Community College to get my associates, and then I will transfer over to Washburn.
Just keep going strong, keep working on her goals. I know she's very driven.
Keep doing what you're doing. Like, you got this. She's so driven academically and professionally.
You gotta be, just staying on top of things, following the rules. I made it this far.
We're so proud of you. We'll pull up the certificate and we're going to turn this over to the board. The certificate, the Senior of the Month, will be delivered directly to you. And again, we are just so proud of you and all that you've accomplished. It's pretty amazing. I'll turn it over to Reverend Williams, and you'll see the certificate there. Ms. Hughes, January Senior of the Month. So I turn it over to Reverend Williams and the rest of the board from there.
Hey, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, Mom.
And anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, this is Bone Break. Ariana, I wonder, do you ever sleep?
I do sleep.
I'm impressed. Hang in there. Keep going.
Thank you.
Hey, I just want to say congratulations. One of the advantages of us doing this meeting on Zoom is I'm in my home office and I'm a teacher, which means I have my big clapping hands just for you. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. You're going to continue to do great things. We all know it.
Thank you.
Ariana, this is Mr. Munoz. I wanted to, as the father of twins, I know how tough it can be, and you got to have them on the same schedule at the same time, or else things get off kilter. So I'm just really impressed by what you've done so far. Tell me more about your choice and the reason why you're wanting to head to try and be an RN. What got you thinking about doing that?
When I had my girls, Maya, this one here, she was in the NICU. She had low blood sugar, so she was in there for 2 weeks, and I got a connection with the nurses, and the way they treated my baby, I liked it, and it drove me to become an RN and work with little babies and make them feel better, because I have like a caring heart.
Well, I'm so impressed by your fortitude, your resiliency that you built up. You have that. That's all you need to be successful. And as well, just a shout out to Hope Street and everybody there who've helped you to get to where you are. Thanks.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes, this is Scott Mickelson. First off, I just want to echo the compliments that have already been directed to you. But I have a question, and that is, what motivated you to change the trajectory of your educational career once you got to Hope Street?
Well, I came from a really bad background, like childhood, and then I got pregnant really young. I had my girls at 15, and like way before I had my girls, like I was gonna drop out. And when I was going to Topeka High, I was like, just running out the doors. I had no insight for school whatsoever. And then I had my girls, and I was driven to go back to school and become something for them.
Well, congratulations, you're well on your way to doing that, and it's very commendable.
Thank you so much.
The load you have on your plate is big, but it looks like you're handling it well and doing great things. We expect that in the future too. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Dr. Anderson, back to you. Close this out.
Again, Ms. Hughes, we are so impressed with you. You are an exceptional young lady, and we know that you will do great things in the future. All right, that concludes our Senior of the Month for this evening. The video that you saw, we already put it in the C News. So, Ms. Hughes, you're already circulating all over social media. If people are watching that video, we'll make sure to send you a direct link as well, but you could go on our YouTube and find it as well. Ms. Hughes, is there any final comment you want to say before we move on to our next item?
I think my last comment would have to be, I appreciate Hope Street a lot. They've helped me a lot. They become my family. They become my support system.
That's awesome. On that perfect note, again, congratulations to you as well as to all the Hope Streeters who support our students in such a way that allows them to continue on, even when you're in a moment of challenge, to move beyond that. So thank you, Mr. Knoll and team, and congratulations, Ms. Hughes.
Thank you.
So for our highlights this evening for the very first meeting of the year, I believe that concludes our highlights. Reverend Williams, we're going to turn it back over to you at this time.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Lister, do we have any public communications?
There are none.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is motion of to disposition of business by consent.
Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Second.
Okay, has been moved and seconded. Any questions? Ready for the vote?
Vote is-
aye.
Aye.
Oh.
All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mrs. Lister. That takes us, excuse me, to Superintendent's report, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. This evening, we have the strategic plan update, really focused on digital equity. We also will conclude with sharing with you what our current scorecard is as relates to COVID and answering any questions regarding COVID from any of our board members. We do have a video clip as well that shows our new filtration system related to cleaning the air. It's a purification system. It's on all of our HVAC units. We'll be sharing that in that COVID update. But we'll start with the strategic plan update under technology. The board members that have served on that technology committee, after tonight, they won't be on that committee anymore. So we knew you wouldn't get a chance to get any final updates. So this is the digital equity presentation. Turn it over to Mr. Gowan, and it happens to be Technology Appreciation Day. So Mr. Gowan, what a perfect day for you and Mr. Ramirez and Mr. True all to be presenting.
Thank you very much. Confirm that everybody can hear me. Thumbs up. Excellent. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about digital equity, but before we talk about digital equity, let's talk about the things that Topeka Public Schools did long before the pandemic. First of all, we had a one-to-one initiative where we sent devices home with every middle school and high school student. And we also had a one-to-one initiative in our elementary schools where each student had a device in the classroom that they were able to use. That gave us a foundation upon which to build when the pandemic came around and make sure that resources were also equitable at home. When we began, just a second, let me get this out of my way here. There we go. When the pandemic began, we started reaching out to our partners, and Cox allowed us to set up a partnership that allows us to actually pay for the internet connections in nearly 3,000 homes. At the height of the pandemic, it was over 3,000, but currently it's 2,987 families. We pay for a basic internet connection in those homes, and then families are able to use the devices that the students bring home from school or devices that they have in the home in order to connect to the internet and continue their learning at home. In addition, we've also partnered with T-Mobile. T-Mobile has provided us 2,254 hotspots, and those hotspots are checked out to families who don't have a fixed home situation or families who are awaiting connection through Cox or one of our other partners. From now until the end of June 2022, we've actually funded most of those devices with unlimited data because we did learn early on in the process that the hotspots that we had did not have, they were not unlimited data. And some of our students were going through the data pretty quickly. And so we were able to fund those through June with unlimited data. And in addition to that, we've secured some grant resources through the FCC in order to provide Chromebooks for families who do not otherwise have a device at home. And so we have made those available for checkout for families in need so that our students have an option to learn at home, even if their device is at school. And so we will be sharing with our families that we provide internet services to. We'll be sharing more information about that as well so that they can take advantage of having a device in their home. In addition to that, Topeka Public Schools has partnered with area partners, the city, the county, the public library in order to try to find ways to improve access for all of our neighbors, whether or not they have a student in the home. During the pandemic, we learned that students were relying on neighbors, students were relying on grandparents to provide to babysit them. And so what we learned is that it's not just enough to provide internet connectivity in the home. We need to be able to reach out to all of the people that our students might need to extend their learning in those homes. And so in partnership with the city of Topeka and in partnership with the county and public library and many others, we've established a digital navigator program, and that's actually been funded through some grant activities that we sought on behalf of the city. And we are able to fund a digital navigator that will help point people, help families, whether they're students or whether they're members of the community. It'll help point them to an internet connectivity service that will allow them to connect to the internet and allow them to use what devices that they do have in their home. In addition to that, we've also funded a technical navigator that will help them make that connection and help them troubleshoot any sort of device issues that they might be having on getting those connections and using those tools. In addition to that, we are going to be working with our community partners to provide learning opportunities so that families who are not as experienced with the internet can learn some of the things that some of us take for granted that we do on the internet. And so we are trying every avenue that we can to make sure that our neighbors can connect and can use the internet productively for financial gain, employment, healthcare, any of the things that we take for granted that we do on the internet. We want to make sure all of our neighbors are able to do that as well. And that's going to support the learning of our kids. In addition, we are seeking capital project funding through the U.S. Department of the Treasury. And that'll be done through the Kansas Department of Commerce. They will be the grant authority for that particular project. Anyway, we're seeking additional funding as part of our community to set up multi-purpose community centers. And the idea behind that is to take existing community centers and outfit them with the equipment necessary to teach our neighbors and to provide some support as they learn how to engage and how to use these new tools to them and be able to do some of the things that again, many of us do take for granted. And again, this is going to be funded through the U.S. Department of Treasury and the Kansas Department of Commerce. And I'm going to turn it over to Diane Leopold, who's going to address our equitable access in our media centers.
Well, good evening, everyone. I don't often get a chance to highlight the digital resources that our libraries provide, and so I'm happy to be here tonight. So we have a lot of digital resources available that the district pays for, and we deliver those through the library manager. Besides giving students a list of the books on a topic, it will also bring up all the World Book information in the World Book suite. And we have the World Book suite includes a kids level, a student level, and an advanced level. It's available in Spanish. And then it also has a bunch of historic timelines. Then we also have Gale and Context databases. Those are for the high schools and for the middle schools. And then the high schools have opposing viewpoints, which really helps them with opinion pieces. Then we also have Gale Presents Peterson's Test Prep, which is kind of a careers kind of database. We have Rosen Teen Health and Wellness. We have WebPath Express, and that takes a little bit of explanation because WebPath Express is a Follett service. They have 90,000 websites that are subject indexed. I'm not sure what that is.
And our apologies, looks like we might be online within the YouTube, Mr. Gowan, and we might need to remove a YouTube piece, or if you're managing that online at this time.
Anyway, I'm just going to go on and talk about the resources that we have. So those are all, there are also free databases like Wikipedia and CNN and Fact Monster and all kinds of things like that, that we also have linked into our library system. So we not only can tell you what books we have on a topic, but we can tell you, we can bring actual information from really good sources right to the student or teacher desktop. And that, to me, because I've been in the business a long, long time, that is just amazing, amazing, amazing. Anyway, we also partner with the Topeka Public Library. We have a special MOU that allows us to get accounts, TSCPL accounts for our students and our teachers. And they have a lot of resources that we really can't afford. They have Overdrive, which is an ebook and audiobook service. They have other library research sites, and they have some just learning sites that elementary students can use. Some of those are like, I'm blanking, I'm sorry. But they do have a lot of things, and our students can get a special account and access all of those resources. And the State Library of Kansas also provides a whole lot of digital resources. We use Mango, which is a language learning program. The elementary schools use BookFlix and eStacks and Tumblebooks. Then those are all ebook resources. And then the State Library also provides a whole lot of adult and student online databases that complement the ones that we subscribe to.
Thank you, Ms. Leopold. And with the media piece, we now will turn it over to both Gail Ramirez, the Curriculum Technology Integration Specialist, and Mr. Travis True. And again, on Technology Day, Appreciation Day, it is perfect to highlight both of these individuals, as well as Ms. Leopold, for the pieces that they do to help technology really come to life. Ms. Ramirez and Mr. True.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I'm Travis True, one of the curriculum technology specialists, and I just want to highlight, Gail and I have put together a website that has a list of all of our required softwares and recommended softwares to use in the classroom. And all that website's public facing, so students and parents as well as staff can see that. The information on the site is the name of the tool, the description, how it's used, what can be done with it, and there's also tutorials and other help for staff, students, and parents on the site. And because those tools get updated quite frequently, then our site also, we try to update that as best we can. So I just wanted to highlight that part of resources that are available throughout the district, to not only to staff, but also to students and to parents.
Hi, I'm Gail Ramirez. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I want to talk a little bit about our computer science and coding curriculum. We've actually had the coding piece here for, I think this is our third or fourth year. It's aligned with computer science, math, and science standards. It's inclusive pre-K clear up through 12th grade. We also have Lego competition schools. We have 6 elementary and 4 middle school Lego competition schools, where they work hard and We're not competing outside the district this year because of COVID, nor were we able to last year, but we are going to have, even if it's just virtual, we will have virtual competitions this year in district. Many of our schools have after-school computer and coding clubs. I personally ran one at a school for 3 years before school every Wednesday. And Jess and I and Travis help schools set up family fun code nights where we can work with the students and the parents to show them how much fun coding is and how easy it is. And it's really a wonderful thing to see all the families get together and have a great time. We hear all the time from parents who really weren't indoctrinated into coding, you know, when they went to school, that they can't believe how much fun it is and how easy it is. What they don't know is they're also learning a lot of math standards at the same time. This year, we have added the computer science curriculum. We've piloted the computer science class at the College Prep Academy at TCALC this year, and it's been going very well. We are getting lots of wonderful feedback because next year it's going to be added to the program of studies at the other high schools. Our computer science course aligns to the other 4 sections of the state's computer science standards, which are computer systems, networks and internet, data analysis, and impacts of computing. The other half, the other semester of computer science is actually our coding that we already have in place. And we've had that in all the high schools. Now this is our 3rd year. This summer, our CNA team will be writing computer science standards for our preschools, elementaries, and middle school classrooms. These activities are going to be integrated into current math and science teaching practices as some fun little snippets for kids to learn computer science. Because as we work towards the state's goal of possibly offering the computer science course in lieu of the 3rd credit for math and science requirements, we want to make sure that our students are completely ready for this. So we are kind of working backwards, which is kind of the way I work. I start at my goal and then I work back and get it so that there's a nice progression all the way through.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. And so this piece on digital equity, you've heard about the operational piece and the equipment from Mr. Gowan. You've heard about the library and the partnership and the media component. And then you've also heard about curriculum. So we're going to turn it over to our board for any questions you might have, or for the members of the technology committee, for any questions you may have of these team members about digital equity and ways we're trying to give greater access to all of our students.
Excuse me, are there any questions, comments?
Yeah, I first off, thank all of you for the work that you do. Gail and Scott and everybody. I have small kids, and at first when they would show me some of these resources that they'd come home and I thought they were video games, but as I sort of paid more attention to that, I began to realize that some of them were math oriented, or some of them were the beginnings of coding. And so I just wanted to compliment you all on the work that you do to find programs that are fun for the kids, but also begin to help them think differently in ways that are going to prepare them for the future. So thank you all for that. My question is, what do you see as maybe the toughest challenge for you right now as we move forward and we try to move our kids to the point where we want to get them in the future? What are we struggling with most, or what's should we be aware of?
Ms. Ramirez, can you answer that question?
I'm happy to. Probably my biggest challenge is getting enough time to get the teachers trained. We compete with so many core content areas. Travis and I work hard to get into schools and help teachers, and some are a little more reluctant than others. So once they have us in and we work with them and they see, oh, this is a practical application of math. For instance, I was at a middle school and one of the special education teachers said, my kids can't do this. And I said, oh, yeah, they can. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know a whole lot about special ed, but I just know that it was going to work. And so I went over there for 2 weeks and we did the same things we did with the regular ed kids. And not only were they successful, 3 of the kids got perfect scores on the obstacle courses where they had to code a little robot all the way through and do all these things. They had to know circumference. They had to know the area of different shapes. They had to know the angles of a triangle, of an octagon, of a hexagon, and then know what the reverse angles are so that they can figure out how to code it, because you actually code from a reverse angle. And so these are all 7th grade math standards, but they did not know them, but because they didn't really have a personal reason to internalize it and know it, but then they did. And so they learned it and they did very, very well.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. I'll turn it back over to you, Reverend Williams.
Any other questions or comments? Excuse me.
Mr. President, I have one.
Go ahead.
Gail, I think you're probably my best one to answer this. Hello, known you for a long time. I remember our first computer lab. My question is, are we using a lot of this? We are so rich in resources in Topeka Public Schools. Are we using a lot of these resources in our before and after school programs to help?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. A lot of the schools have the computer coding clubs. In fact, I just had calls from principals today asking for more resources, which we have here at Bishop, and we check out to them. And I will most likely go out and kind of show them how to work it in. So it may be a coding lesson that they're doing, but they're going to actually get engineering standards because they're going to have to build a ramp. They're going to have to do a handoff. They're going to have to do this whole thing. It's going to be tons of fun, but it's going to be rich in science and mathematics, but it's all in after school program.
I can see some real power there since our teachers are trying to do their lessons during the day, adding that extra for after school programs. I can see a lot of direction in some of the programs I saw on Travis's page. So I think those are really good resources for our students.
And we're trying to tag right in with what they're teaching in the classroom. So it goes from what I call 2D learning to 3D learning. And with many children, it starts to blossom then. They actually see, I was working with a student and they didn't understand slope and X and Y intercept until we hung some fishing line and a Barbie doll up next to the wall and showed them exactly what it was and why you would ever need to know that. And then it was like, oh, really? That's all it is? So sometimes you just need the resources like that for that to happen, for the light to go on.
Reverend Williams, I see Mr. Campbell.
All right, I was getting ready to call on Mr. Stuart Campbell.
Yeah, I want to thank our technology department for all the amazing work you do. So here's my question. So I remember when I taught in Topeka Public Schools, Ms. Ramirez, I went to go see you. You were at, oh gosh, I don't know where you were at the time, but you trained me after school on how to use the smart board and just all this stuff. You were so helpful, so amazing, and it just really enhanced my ability to, use technology in the classroom. I was able to go after school and set aside some time for you to train me. So I guess my question is, how many of yous are out there to train teachers, and when do they have the time? I mean, I was able to go after school to get trained. So really, I guess that's my question. How many people like you and Mr. True are out there who can train teachers, especially maybe during the day while they're teaching, like kind of a co-teaching kind of train them as they go? I mean, I don't know. I would just, if you could speak to that, you or Mr. True could speak to that.
Well, actually, first of all, there are only two of us, Mr. True and me. And we're willing to meet with teachers anytime we go to them. They come to us before school, after school, Saturday mornings, whatever. We're happy to work with them in any way we can to make their life better. But I want Mr. True to speak to, since he hasn't had a chance to talk much, to the Innovation Academy, what it is and what the purpose is and how it's helping. Travis?
Yeah, so every school has at least 2 members of Innovation Academy, which is our technology CNA team. And we do a lot of train the trainer things with them on the instructional software. And so that's really the go-to person in the buildings for the teachers to connect with on learning how to do things, getting trained. They have the opportunity to do building-based PDs, like on the 4th. Some of them may have done some PD in the morning at their building, during faculty meetings, after school time. So there are at least 2 people, and most of them are teachers. There are some instructional coaches and some that are media specialists. But there are at least 2 in every building. Topeka High has 4. Topeka West will have 3. So some of the larger buildings have more, but all schools have at least 2 people in the building that can do some training and do some troubleshooting and talk to teachers about using the software and the other technology.
Thank you.
Dr. Mickelson.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. I have a comment and then 2 questions. My comment is I just am appreciative of Gail and Travis and their enthusiasm to help. This has been consistent throughout my tenure on the board. As long as I've known them, they are willing to help teachers however and whenever they can. And so just a great big thank you to you 2 for that level of enthusiasm and commitment to our teaching staff. The questions I have, one is for Mr. Gowan, and that is your strategy for replacement of technology. Typically the one-to-one is what I'm thinking of mostly. You know, we had the bond issue and we were able to purchase that, and it certainly purchased a lot of that technology and infrastructure, and it paid dividends with when we had to go to remote learning. And so I'm just wondering, going forward, I see that as a huge challenge. And so how are we going to address that challenge?
There's a couple of things that we've implemented, and actually we did it on our teacher devices, kind of as a pilot case. But essentially what we did is we leased devices. Instead of buying devices in a small quantity, we leased the device, and well, we basically bought a larger quantity and then entered into a lease agreement with another company that allowed us to spread that cost over the useful life of the device. We would do the same thing going forward with our instructional devices in order to make sure that we have the financial resources on a year-by-year basis to be able to keep up with the ones that we need to replace. I will say that we haven't had to engage in that in the last 2 years, simply because we have acquired devices through grant opportunities that are available to us at this time. But we do expect to continue that path that we talked about. And I want to say that was just right before COVID that we did our last discussion in regards to how we were going to replace different levels of Chromebooks and different levels of devices at the student level during that timeline.
I know it's an ongoing challenge and expensive one, but I'm glad to know that you have a plan. My other question is, I recall seeing a 60-minute segment 2 or 3 years ago about girls that code, and I was still impressed with that. There was some entrepreneur out in Silicon Valley that had a program for coding, and so I'm not that we necessarily have to follow that program, but I'm glad to see that we're promoting that. But one of the things that I recollect from that segment was how there was a gender disparity between computer software coders and professionals, and it was heavily biased towards men. and how there was a great opportunity for women to enter into this field. And I just wanted to know, are we doing anything to encourage, promote our female students in enrolling in these classes and coding opportunities, I guess? Or is it, do we see that in our population? And if so, what are we doing to address it?
I'll ask Ms. Ramirez to address that. But because you brought that up a number of years ago, you heard Ms. Ramirez mention that about 3 or 4 years ago is when we started this coding piece and really embedding it K on through. So it's another lasting legacy in terms of bringing those kinds of issues up that have helped us have the support and even the some of these ideas to move forward. Mrs. Ramirez, do you want to speak about how you're integrating girls that code? We know that that occurs through several of our programs that are external, but would you like to talk about the gender disparity gap and how you're helping close that?
Absolutely. We did have a Girls That Code program, and then it kind of stagnated, and then they completely retooled, and I've been speaking with their national person, and we're going to start it up again in Topeka Public Schools. I can tell you from being at West a lot of this last semester, because we didn't have a teacher, Jess and I have been going over and doing that class. There is a gender disparity. We had probably out of 25 or 26 kids, we maybe only had 5 or 6 girls, but I can tell you that the 5 or 6 girls we had were excellent. I think it goes back to girls think that maybe they're not as good as math, even though they absolutely are. But I had one young man who ended up being one of my favorite students who told me, he said, "What do you know about coding? You're a girl." And so it is out there. But then at the end, he came up and he told me, he says, I really just didn't know that girls knew this much about code. And I said, it's like speaking a language. It's just a language that you talk to machines. And we are working with the counselors to try to get more girls to sign up. But it starts mostly in the elementary schools. When I did the program every Wednesday morning at McClure, we met from, I think, 8 to or 7:30 to 8:30. We probably had more girls in that class than we did boys. And the girls absolutely loved it. So it's all in the elementary schools on how we marketed it. We went into the classrooms, we kind of showed them what we're going to be doing and how much fun we were going to have. And they kind of signed up and they really stuck with it.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Really having this as K through 12 and embedding coding as part of our curriculum a few years ago is what helps break that opportunity gap very early on. Turn it back to Reverend Williams.
Dr. Morrison.
I've got just a couple of things. I remember before COVID, the Topeka High teacher, who was a star teacher, really pushed young women to go into coding, and she actually brought in a star from somewhere that I can't remember. I can't remember her name. She's retired, but she was a very, very good teacher, and she really pushed coding for young girls. And I think there were several of them that actually went to work with a coder, somebody in a institution, and worked with her. So that's being done. I had an opportunity at being on the board to sit in on Innovation Academy. So I would recommend board members do that. Travis and Gail are, we go a long way back now, but mostly before COVID. And then the question I have, and I don't know who could answer that. So who puts the student, the individual student, in touch with all this wonderful learning ability, all this software? Say a teacher gives an assignment, and then there's all this library software that they have the opportunity. How do they get directed to that?
Dr. Morrison, Mrs. Morrissey is on with us. You mentioned Topeka High. I think you were talking about Ms. Hageman at one point with the coding and the girls, and then she went to TCALC. But Ms. Morrissey can talk about how students get in touch with all of these resources, and if she'd like to speak briefly on the coding piece as well, she'll do so. Ms. Morrissey?
Absolutely. You are correct. It is Ann Hageman. And we did have, for a long time, this is the first year we haven't, we had students who actually coded our website as part of the programming over at TCALC. We do still internally have coding classes. Mr. Ditzler has been really hard pressed to increase those numbers, and he has worked hard to recruit, has full classes, and is working on increasing females. We have a STEM club, and we have a Girls Who Code type group. It's not that program, as Ms. Ramirez said, but we certainly continue to work that. And also 2 females who are our webmasters and who designed and led the teams that designed our website were also given huge scholarships because they went to a competition. I believe it was in St. Louis with Ms. Hageman. So we will continue to work it, but we have good programming, and we continue to recognize that girls are also good at this.
So between the clubs and signing up for particular courses and being involved in after school, those are ways that young people get involved and get connected. And it really starts with having the resources and great leadership, as Mrs. Morrissey just kind of detailed what some of that looks like. Turn it back over to you, Reverend Williams.
Ms. Bowley.
Thank you. Going back to Mr. Gowan. Mr. Gowan, I hear in the news about we have so much technology now and school systems that have been hacked, businesses, information being stolen. What are we doing in Topeka 501 that we can share with our parents to help them understand how we are keeping their student and their family information secure and our students safe from the bad guys in the world?
Well, I'm going to answer that question. At the same time, I'm going to go back to the question that someone had asked, what's our biggest challenge? Well, the biggest challenge with technology, and this is the reason why you have a National Technology Day, is it's constantly changing. And not only is the landscape of what's available in technology constantly changing, but the players and how they interact with each other are constantly changing. And the threats are always out there. And so to answer your question, the way we defend our students against some threats that are out there, and the way we defend our district against the threats that are out there, is we subscribe to services whose sole purpose is to stay on top of those threats and to identify new patterns of computing and to see if those patterns of computing could materialize into a threat. And so Dr. Mickelson is fond of asking in our technology committee meetings, what kind of threats have we defended against recently? And so from time to time, I've given them a report on what kind of things that we defended against. The fact is there is a security attempt against us, some sort of a cybersecurity attack against us almost daily. And in terms of trying to hack into individual student accounts or trying to hack into district officer accounts, those things happen daily. And so what we try to do is we try to, number one, make sure that we're paying attention. And number two, we try to deploy software and hardware defense systems that help us to stay ahead of that. And again, by subscribing to these third-party services, like for example, our content filter, Google is our email service, and Google constantly monitors email behavior. And when it sees something that looks like it could potentially be a threat, it flags the account, prevents it from doing those kinds of activities, and then we go in and investigate. And so to answer your question, that's what we're doing. We're constantly on our toes, constantly looking for those threats, and constantly reaching out to our partners for what they're seeing as potential definitions for new threats.
We thank our Chief Information Officer, Mr. Gowan, and the teaching and learning team for all they're doing in the area of digital equity. And that concludes our report, Reverend Williams.
Okay, how about the COVID update? Have you done that?
The next item of COVID update to kind of end with is really to answer some questions. We're going to start off with the KSNT, and that's the video that you saw. Mr. Guerin was trying to get us ready and going on that YouTube and pulling up that KSNT when Miss Leopold was talking. And so now we're going to turn to that KSNT video. And it's really just as well as having principals here this evening. Instead, you'll see them through this video.
Ready to head back into session with more area kids, even getting ready to head back to school tomorrow. KSNT News reporter Katie Garceron joining us live after speaking to local principals about their preparations amid the pandemic. Katie?
Brooke, the leaders here at Jardine Elementary School and Jardine Middle School are more than excited for their kiddos to get back to school tomorrow, and they are very confident that they can handle any COVID-19 situation that might come their way. And it's not just the educators that are excited for the kids to come back. It's the parents and the kids themselves, too.
So I know staff is rejuvenated. They've had some time to actually have some rest and get their excitement back and ready for a second semester. I know kids are excited. I've already got emails back from kids like, are you sure we don't start tomorrow? Are you sure we didn't start yesterday? Like, no, it's the 5th.
They are especially excited because a long-awaited project was completed. HVAC air purifier units were installed in every Topeka public school in every classroom, taking only 20 to 30 minutes to clear out nearly 95% of COVID particles in the air.
We have updated, all of our HVAC systems have been updated in all of our buildings with an air purifying system that addresses any concerns with COVID or any other impurifications that might be in the air.
This will also help kids with allergies and asthma. And if a kid has been exposed to COVID, they have a system in place called Test to Learn and Test to Play. So if the child has been exposed to COVID, as long as they aren't already showing symptoms, they can come to school and take a rapid test. If they test negative, then they are free to attend school or play in a game.
If you meet certain requirements, you can come and test every morning, get a COVID test on site. And then if you're negative, then you stay and you can learn. And then we do that every day. That might be during that quarantine period that you might traditionally have had to do, whether you have COVID or not. We just have a lot of safety things in place to assure that kids can have the opportunity to continue to learn.
And even though educators at those 501 schools are extremely excited for their kids to come back tomorrow, they are also following CDC guidelines still for COVID-19 and are also enforcing a mask mandate. In South Topeka, covering local news that matters, I'm Katie Garceron, KSNT News.
All right.
When it comes to trimming your balls,
now on with us this evening, Miss Morrissey is on as our largest high school. So you've heard from an elementary, you've heard from a middle, and she's on if there are questions as it relates to that. We do want to take you to the main webpage and show you where our COVID resources are located. So if you go on the main webpage, topekapublicschools.net, there are several little boxes that you'll see momentarily that include showing parent resources. If you click on parent resources, it says parent COVID resources. As we go to that space, and I'll just kind of navigate through that. So if you're on the web page, you just kind of scroll down, you'll see those little buttons right there. And whether you want to go to the CDC or Shawnee County, but we're going to go on parent resources. So TPS parent resources. If you click on that, and as you scroll down that does give you the current Shawnee County COVID rating card for this was just released today on Thursday. And then if you continue to scroll down, you'll see the Topeka Public Schools card, and you'll see how many students and staff were positive in Topeka Public Schools. We release our card every Thursday. We track the same time period that the Shawnee County Health Department tracks as well. So as we move off of that page, we do want to remind all of our families that on that same page, if we were to navigate it with more time, you'd also see reminders of wearing masks and hand washing. All of those videos that you see were used with our principals when they returned, and our nurses, custodians, and then principals gave direction to their staff on what to reinforce with their students. That's our overall update of how the school year has started, but I'm going to turn it over to the board if you have specific questions. We kept this on the agenda because it was on the agenda last year, and we thought when we came back from the break, this might be something you want to speak to, although the main topic tonight was digital equity.
It's Melanie Stewart Campbell.
Yes, thank you. My question is for Ms. Morrissey. Last night, I got a text message from a constituent asking me if anything has changed regarding basketball with the uptick in cases in Shawnee County. So, Ms. Morrissey, would you mind, if that patron is listening, just kind of recapping what the protocol is for sports during this time?
Correct. There really isn't a change other than the new definitions that came out on the 31st of December. So to unmask, if a student athlete is not fully vaccinated, which at this point they would have to be boosted unless their vaccinations occurred this fall, they participate in the testing process to unmask while they play. If they choose to mask, then it doesn't matter, but they would have to mask at all times. I went in and spoke to both of our teams this evening. I can tell you that they mask during practice regardless of their status, just as an extra protection. The other things that we have in place still are, they do mask in locker rooms, they mask on transportation regardless of their status. But the only thing we are doing, and it is not a change, is that we are allowing them to unmask if they test twice a week, which is what we visited with you about before Christmas. The change that I did visit with them about today is the new information we received since returning is that they do not honor natural immunity. So a student that has had it even within the last 6 months would still have to be vaccinated or boosted or test.
Okay. So on the court, Ms. Morrissey, during a competition,
Yes.
Players do not need to mask if they tested negative twice within a week.
Correct. They normally play Tuesdays and Fridays. So we are testing on Tuesdays and Fridays. So if they have a Saturday game, it's within 24 hours. And even if they don't play, we do the testing twice a week so that we are testing before and after they could have been exposed as they play.
Okay. Okay.
And
so
they do mask on benches.
Okay.
And other people's places, mostly because at our place, we can set them 6 foot apart from each other. But if they aren't 6 foot apart on the bench, they also mask on the bench.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Thank you. So that's for basketball. So also for all sports, they're testing twice a week. Is that right?
They are for wrestling and basketball right now. Swimming, because they're never in contact. They mask all the time except when they actually swim and they're not close to each other. Bowling, similarly, when they bowl, they aren't close to anyone. So they can unmask while they throw the ball and remask. But if they are unmasked and in contact with opponents or each other because of the sport, they would be testing.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Morrissey, for all you're doing.
Thanks.
We appreciate you.
And on staff development day, Ms. Morrissey had a meeting with all athletic directors, all coaches, and just, again, also with that group, revisited all of the protocols, safety protocols, and has done just an excellent job of ensuring that we're monitoring and being consistent in our practices. And we thank you, Ms. Morrissey, for your leadership.
Thank you.
Dr. Morrissey.
I was going to say that concludes our report, but no such luck.
And I actually want to pay gratitude to Rebecca Morrissey and administration for following guidelines. I do believe, because we've stuck with our guns, we haven't vacillated back and forth. We haven't had the pushback that that other districts have had. I mean, you read about them all the time, and people coming in and yelling that they don't want to wear masks and all this. We just haven't had that, and I do think it's because we are consistent, and we are absolutely doing the right things. My daughter sent me a listing of the Shawnee County. I mean, we are so far red in Shawnee County right now. It is awful. My wife, who is vaccinated, boosted, wears masks all over the place, got it. So she got a breakthrough infection. She's now over it, but she did not get it very bad. So you know, the ICUs are filling up with unvaccinated viruses. So I just want to say, I appreciate all that we've done to stay healthy.
Spoley.
Dr. Anderson, across the nation, there are a lot of districts, schools, states that are talking about going remote again. I'm sure this is a concern to parents that this could occur. Could you talk to us about our plans around any remote or what that might look like as we move forward?
So, and I'll go back to that. I pulled up the webpage and we went pretty quickly, but I'm going to show our Shawnee County card and I'm going to show our Topeka Public Schools card. And so, while counties or school districts around us may have other ranges of numbers, we really are tracking our own COVID positive rate, as well as for our students, as well as for our staff. So as we go down to our school district numbers, and we'll go down to that. I'm not sure if that's on the actual, I don't know if we're on the web page. It doesn't look like we are just yet, but we're going to navigate back to the web page. Here we are. And so this tracks the same period that you just saw on the preceding slide. And we release ours on Thursdays as well. We'll continue to track that. That number has been, as you know, higher than that, even when we are in a yellow or orange range. And so now that everyone is back, we anticipate that number may well be higher than that moving forward. But as we track those numbers, we also are tracking clusters. So you'll see at the bottom of that card, it shows that we have not had any clusters. And so with that other variable, we feel really comfortable with continuing our mitigation strategies, adding the extra layers, and remaining in school. If at any time, however, we begin to have cluster-related issues, large outbreaks in ways that cause concern, we certainly can revisit at any time whether or not we need to have discussion about taking other measures beyond where we are now. But at this time, we feel confident in our administrators, athletics, as well as academics, and the operational systems we have in place. We will continue to keep this COVID update for you and all other board members, Ms. Boley, on the board agenda so that we stay really up front every couple of weeks having conversation about where are we. And that particular update, again, for parents, they can look at that every week on Thursday. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I know the state of Kansas has a certain limit on remote learning to make sure our schools do stay open. So I want parents to understand that it's not easy for us as a school district or any district to just go to remote. So we are expected to keep our doors open just as long as we can. And it sounds like we will be working around our clusters or small outbreaks if that should occur. I'm assuming one of the safest places anybody can be right now is in our school buildings.
Yes, ma'am. And to your point, the legislator hasn't approved any waiver and any lost time would be required to be made up, and remote learning is not approved. We, however, in Topeka have one of the 11 or 12 elementary virtual schools, and parents who want to sign up for that is an option for parents to sign up for virtual school. We've provided it all year, elementary, and there are only 11 other sites in the state of Kansas. But for Topeka Public School student families, if they would like to have that as their option, they can sign up, but they would need to utilize that for the rest of the school year. But if they choose to do that, that's also an alternative option, Ms. Boley, as well. Thank you for commenting on that because we do have some structures and parameters that we must work within from a legislative space.
Are we providing masks, and if so, what kind are they?
Masks, and Mr. Robbins may want to add to this, we have always provided a mask if a student comes without a mask or has a dirty mask and it needs to be changed. or they come off the bus and lose their mask. So we have provided those. We are providing the health masks. So those are the blue or green masks that are not cloth. At one point earlier in the year, we were providing the cloth masks as well. But at this time, with the information over the course of the winter break, when we returned, all school buildings really are just using the medical mask, much like the health mask, much like what you see when you walk in the building. We do ask parents and teachers and all students to come with their mask, just like you come with clothing on. Really, your mask now is part of your clothing. So we do ask that they provide their own. But if they come without that, much like if they came without a pencil, we would provide the mask as well. Mr. Robbins, did you want to add to that?
No, Dr. Anderson, I think you covered that well. I'm glad that you added the fact that the expectation is that a student shows up to the building with their mask, but we do have backups just in case that does not occur. Or if during the course of a day, sometimes, a student may lose a mask or a mask, the clippings, may malfunction, and we have to replace a mask. So a student can get through the day. We have masks on hand for that. But just providing for the sake of providing, that isn't something that really we are doing at this point.
Thank you.
Dr. Mickelson.
I'd be remiss just to encourage people or parents of students to have their children vaccinated. That's the best protection and the best way to get out of this. So. And I'm going to ask a question that may be unfair because I'm not sure if you have the answer, but the Test to Learn program and Test to Play, how many tests have we administered and how many positives have we captured in that? I assume it's relatively small, but I don't know that anyone has the answer, but I'm hoping somebody has a general idea.
Thank you for asking that question. And I'm looking to see if Ms. Votter is on. And if she's not on, I'm sure Dr. Gray is making sure that she's on with us this evening, particularly to address that question. She actually does track the number of tests. And, there was someone that asked a question about French Middle School and tests. And Ms. Votter knew that they had given approximately 90 tests at a particular interval of time. And so she does actually track that. We might have to get back to you on how many overall, because we have 28 buildings.
Yeah,
and so
I'm just
we may have to get to
curious. It'd be interesting to know. And then just another, to follow up on Dr. Morrison's comment, there's an article I recall reading, the journal article out of, I forget where it's published, but I found it on the CDC website, where they studied Arizona in all of the schools in the Phoenix and Tucson area. I think it was over 1,000 schools, I want to say, and that seems high, but maybe it wasn't. Anyway, schools who had a mask mandate from the beginning of the school year and compared it to schools that adopted a mask mandate later or never had a mask mandate. And the schools that didn't have a mask mandate were 3.5 times more likely to have a cluster infection than the schools that had a mask mandate. So I'm just appreciative that we've been consistent in our efforts to keep our students and staff safe. Vaccination is the best way. Masks are certainly known to do it too. So
to your point, Dr. Mickelson, think about the size of Topeka Public Schools. We have over 13,100 students, and we haven't had a cluster at our sites over the course of this year as we've continued with the processes that we've had. So to your point, the size of our district alone, being one of the largest in the region, being able to continue without clusters in that way. The other piece I will share with you is that steps that we're taking as it relates to masks overall, it's supported by students. They are wearing masks as our staff without any issues. Now today, Mrs. Wallace attended the meeting, the superintendent's meeting with Dr. Watson. We have that every other week. He holds that for us. Mrs. Wallace, would you like to give an update regarding that particular meeting and specifically what was talked about as it relates to the difference in various districts related to masks?
Yes. They talked about just a study in Kansas of our schools this last fall, and that in comparing schools who had a mask mandate to schools that didn't, there was a tenfold difference in students being infected with COVID and or having to be out on quarantine. So supporting the fact that masks make a huge difference in our schools.
So Dr. Mickelson, for the entire board, I suspect the other question was one that you others might have an interest in as well. Thank you, Ms. Wiles, for that particular update, just reaffirming what Dr. Mickelson has shared. And Dr. Mickelson, what we will do for the whole board is just to give the whole board an update on how many tests for previous to this week for Test to Learn. But Test to Learn is continuing. Here's the other thing we want you to know. We were using Test to Learn based on who was eligible to test. And so previously, close contacts were eligible, but household contacts weren't. After the break, household contacts and close contacts are now eligible. So we actually can test more people, but we do have to follow the guidelines that were granted using the grant funds for the test kits that we have. So we will be providing that information and follow up. Are there any other questions for us regarding our COVID update? That does conclude our report. As we conclude this report under Superintendent's report, we do want to share, and we'll turn it over to the board. We were looking forward to having that reception this evening, but it is at the next board meeting. For those that are listening in, it's at 5 o'clock at the next board meeting. We have several items for our board members, in addition to thanking our board members for their amazing service and for really taking us through this journey, not only with the pandemic, but with many of the things you've heard tonight and building on to projects such as coding and other things they've been instrumental in making happen. We also have for our board a plaque that we'd like to give our board. We took a picture of it for tonight. We couldn't give it to you. We wanted to make tonight special. So that's why we had the rolling slideshow that you probably didn't see because you were in closed session. But that rolling slideshow really are the photos that are on a collage that each of you have that's framed. The plaque that you see coming up on the screen from Mr. Gowan will be presented to you at the next meeting. And then additionally, we have all contributed to a brick for each of you that'll be forever in front of central office. So you'll have your brick also inserted when all of the bricks are inserted in the spring. So Dr. Mickelson, Reverend Williams, Dr. Morrison, you all are exceptional individuals, and it's been such an honor to serve with such servant leaders. I know there perhaps will be other comments at the end, but I certainly want to, on behalf of all of Topeka Public Schools staff, thank you for your tremendous support. That concludes our report, Reverend Williams.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anderson. That takes us to board comments. Dr. Bonebreak.
Okay, when I was in my 20s, the 70s were a rather fantastic time, Vietnam notwithstanding. But now that I'm in my 70s, the 20s are very unusual. But Dr. Mickelson, Dr. Morrison, and Reverend Williams, you have made this tumultuous time that much more memorable, I think easier. And I'm proud to have served with you, and I wish you were all coming back. We have some excellent people coming on, but you have made memories. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Let's see who's next. Dr. Morrison.
Well, the truth of the matter is, my grandson is going to be in a program 2 weeks from today, and Grace and I will be in California witnessing his program. He's going to be an Oompa Loompa in Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. So I won't be here. Maybe I can have Mr. Gowan send me so that I can at least show up to give my chair. I don't want to be too long, but it is. I feel very close to John Williams. I think he is one of the best people I know of. And every time he does something behind the scenes, I know that he is doing the right thing and helping the children of our district. And Scott Mickelson, I've known, our daughters went to school together. It's just been a wonderful time to be able to serve with you, Scott. And thanks for all the help that you've given both of you guys. The 4 board members that I've had to the chance to serve with, you guys are awesome. I tell you, I was very hesitant when the 4 older board members left, and I thought, oh no, I'm going to be kind of left out in the cold. But I feel very comfortable that we now have a good board. I think the people coming on will carry on, and your leadership will be very important to them. As you can remember when you first came on the board, and I always felt that it took about 2 years for you to figure out what was really going on. So again, I want to thank administration. I mean, they were very, very much responsible for the bond project. If you remember, Oklahoma City had tornadoes that killed multiple kids, and now we've got FEMA shelters in all the schools. And so I feel very comfortable with the way we have left it. So I just want to thank you for the ability to serve, and hopefully that I've left a good legacy. I want to thank Dr. Anderson and Mr. Robbins for the brick. I wasn't aware of that, so I'm very pleased with that. Thank you guys very much. I think that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Dr. Morrison, Dr. Mickelson.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. Like Dr. Morrison, I just want to take a moment and express my gratitude and thanks to Reverend Williams and Mike. I've known Mike. We were on the Topeka High Site Council together, and Mike was the president for several years, and we would meet monthly with Dr. Wiley, who was a principal then when our daughters were at Topeka High. I was on DCAC with Reverend Williams, and that's how we became acquainted. I remember presenting a study report to the school board on a snowy, cold winter night, and I think I was hopeful that the meeting would be canceled. And this was before we had virtual. I was a little bit nervous. It was actually on school closing and consolidation, which we ultimately ended up doing a lot of as our census has dropped and our student numbers have decreased. I owe a debt of gratitude to Dr. Peg McCarthy, Nancy Kirk, Patrick Woods, and Janelle Johnson. They were true mentors to me, and I suspect to John and Mike, and they kind of showed us the way. And I feel like maybe I did a disservice to 4 current remaining board members that we weren't quite as good maybe as they were to us. Because they were excellent mentors and taught us how to be what I hope was good board members. I feel like public education is a little bit under attack. The teaching profession may not have the respect it once had. There's fewer people entering in that profession. There's attacks to allow public tax dollars get diverted to other sources, other educational means that don't have to take all comers. And it's public education is worthy of defense. And I think it's incumbent on all of us, regardless of whether we have children in the district or not, to defend it. And I encourage those listening to do that. And because I think the next decade could be a challenging decade for public education. One of the best things about this role has been the people I've met and interacted with. They're true professionals who care about students and their achievement. We don't have to look any further than this Hope Street student we just were introduced to tonight to see somebody who really wasn't on a trajectory to graduate She had young babies that would take a tremendous amount of energy, not only one, but two of them. And here she is, thriving, succeeding, and she attributes much of that success to her teachers at Hope Street Academy. So we don't have to look very, and there's thousands of stories like that. And so I'm just grateful for teachers, staff, faculty, who make a difference in the lives of our students in our community, because they make it a better place to live. I wish Keith and Randall and Lisa luck in their new roles as school board members, and if I can support them in any way, I'm happy to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So who's next? Ms. Bowley.
Well, I would state that whenever I needed something or needed an answer, each of you who are leaving our board were there for me. And so please know that you didn't let me down anyway. You always answered my calls and gave me guidance, and I really appreciated that. I think as you look back over your tenure, you have so much to be proud of. You've left such a footprint on Topeka Public Schools, and your bond that you put through keeps our kids safer, allowed them to excel in their learning. And I don't know that we'll be able to leave that same footprint that you have done, and we appreciate your guidance and your leadership during that. And you will be greatly missed, all three of you. But I probably will still call you, so be ready. I did want to give a report on a couple of things. I'm on the policy board for Sheldon Head Start preschool, and they just had completed their federal review, where that has to occur periodically, where they are interviewed for about a week, 5 days. They have to give data and examples of what they're doing at Topeka Head Start, and the staff did an excellent job. And they were always prepared and had the information that they needed. And their report came back, and our Sheldon Head Start is doing an exceptionally great job, and they had no recommendations for them. And so we have a lot to be proud of our Head Start program here in Topeka. Another report I wanted to give is I am the elected delegate for our school board for the Kansas Association of School Boards. And we had a Zoom meeting to vote on our legislative agenda of what we would like to present. Dr. Mickelson is right. Education is high on the agenda to go after, and I have huge concerns as well of the attacks that may be coming towards our educators that they do not deserve. Our educators are heroes in our nation. They have kept our students going during this terrible pandemic time, and they don't deserve what may be coming at them. So I do also encourage many people to stand up and voice your concerns for your educators, for your school districts, for public education. Please, please contact your legislators when you hear attacks on public education. I truly believe that public education is the foundation of our democracy, and we just must stand up and fight for it. We voted on a document that was on our agenda before. It's very similar of one united voice that our Shawnee County districts have approved to have a solid front when they address the legislative concerns this year. And the one at the state level is just very similar, and we voted and approved that at the last meeting. And so we do hope that I do know that all of our school associations are going to be working very hard to defend education. And we hope that as a public person, that you will back that by contacting your legislators. I also wanted to congratulate our administration and our teachers, all of our staff for making it through the first semester. We were able to keep our doors open the whole semester. I know it's been a challenge. I know students, sometimes push back on those masks, but I can tell you when I walk through school buildings and I see those students being heroes and wearing their masks most of the time correctly, and staff members encouraging them to do that, I want everyone to understand that our schools are protecting our community. They're doing such a great job of watching over each and every one of our members in our community. And I just want to say congratulations on a successful first semester, and that as we move forward, we work together around any of our concerns. And I know we can do this. And I just want to thank everybody that makes it possible. Thanks.
Ms. Melanie Stewart Campbell.
So thinking about what Sue did about Head Start, I wasn't planning on speaking to this, but after listening to Ms. Bully's comments, I'm inspired to talk about this woman who I met last night. We went out for dinner, and our server, so it's her second job. Her first job is at Head Start and at Sheldon Head Start. And she doesn't know I didn't tell her that I'm on the board, or she doesn't know anything about my connection with Topeka Public Schools. But I just, thanked her. We just were chatting, and she mentioned what she does during the day. And I just thanked her for her service and for choosing Topeka Public Schools. And she was like, I love my job so much. I love those kids so much. Head Start is the best place to work. And just, her passion and her just how authentically she spoke about it. And then goes off to her other job. But I too, I'm really proud of Head Start and our staff there. So anyway, this woman was really special, as are so many of our staff. So yeah, this second semester started yesterday, and according to my Topeka Public School husband and my 2 Topeka Public School children, so far so good. And I just can't, I'm just sad about how this is our last meeting with Dr. Morrison, Dr. Mickelson, and Reverend Williams. And I know you're not going to go too far, but I just want to thank the 3 of you so much for your years of service. The 3 of you, your collective wisdom and level-headedness and experience and kindness and humor and just ease to work with. I've appreciated it so much, and I've learned so much from you. And I'm just really grateful to have been able to serve with you just these short yet long 2 years. So you will be missed. And that's all. On to Mr. Munoz.
Mr. Munoz.
Yeah, I just, everybody said basically that what I've been thinking. I appreciate Mr. Mickelson, Mr. Reverend Williams, and Mr. Morrison. It's been the longest 2 years I've ever experienced, but I'm appreciative and grateful to have you all there alongside the 4 of us who joined 501. 8 years is 8 years, or however long you all have given to 501 in different capacities makes a difference. And I think I would encourage anyone listening that that there are lots of ways to contribute to 501. And indeed, if we're going to move our students forward in our district, it really does need us, not just in positions like here as the board, but as volunteers and as in whatever capacity that best suits you. But thank you all for being there, for making it enjoyable and being willing to be there to help us learn and to get our legs under us during probably the most difficult situations you can imagine. And I think I'll just echo that what you all have said in terms of public education and the need to speak up and to talk about the great additions that it makes to communities like Topeka and the storied history that our district has in the larger scheme of public education. So we have an important place in history, and that demands that we step up and to be as great advocates as possible. So thank you all we're going to miss you guys, and look forward though to bumping into you in 501, the different various events and out at the grocery store. And with that, I'll pass it on to Reverend Williams.
Okay, thank you. Well, I had this big speech prepared, but excuse me, 121 years ago, there was a lady by the name of Katie Thompson Ortega who was born in Boynton, Oklahoma. And the reason I mentioned her name, she was my first educator. It's my maternal grandmother. Many of you may not know that Topeka Correctional Facility was a school, and that's where she earned her teaching certificate. And it was going back and forth from Oklahoma where she met my grandfather, and then they had my mother, and here I am. So if all of the values that I have, my grandmother instilled in me. I want to thank Dr. Anderson, Larry, and Billy for putting up with me these past few years. This has been a labor of love, an extension of my ministry. I am not going anywhere. I'm just getting out of the way. I will continue to be an advocate for kids. And like I think it was Miss Boley said, you got to stay vigilant. Public education is under attack. And that attack is going to come from within and from without. So you got to be aware of what's going on. And that means as parents, as community members, you got to hold our legislators accountable, elected officials accountable. Because Topeka Public Schools is all about engaging, preparing, and inspiring. That's who we are and what we do. And if we keep that focus, we'll do well. And I'm here for any advice. And welcome Keith and Dr. Schumacher and Lisa to the battle. And whatever support I can provide, I'm more than willing and ready to do. And I'm gonna close with my favorite quote by Dr. Martin Luther King. It says, "Intelligence plus character is the true goal of education." And so, there any other comments or?
Reverend Williams, I would ask that if we could go back into closed session for 15 minutes when you do conclude. I would also mention that Ms. Votter, she did join, and just between last semester and this semester, we've had 2,000 tests under the Test to Learn program with the final parts of last semester and the first couple of days of this semester. I'll turn it back over to you, Reverend Williams.
Yeah, I was getting ready to entertain a motion to go back into executive session.
Mr. President.
Beg your pardon?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and now the three amigos are riding off into the sunset. Go ahead.
All right. Mr. President, one last time, I move the board recess to executive session to discuss individual employee contracts and performance pursuant to the non-elected personnel exemption under coma for 15 minutes with no further action to be taken except adjournment.
It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been seconded. Any questions, comments? Ready for the vote?
Who seconded, please?
I thought it was Dr. Sue Bowley, sorry.
Thank you.
So I vote aye.
It's open. Aye. Thank you. Aye. Dr. Bowman.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, there it goes.
So will Mr. Gowan send us another executive session?
Yes,
Zoom?
and I believe it is the same link. Is that correct, Mr. Gowan? Can you just re-email that to everyone, that same link, so that they can sign back in?
Yes, I will re-email that same link. It's the same link that was marked executive session.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sending that again. So it's at the top of their emails, and we'll look for. Now, wouldn't it be this last meeting that we bring you into an evening executive session? We can, out of all 6 years, I don't think we've ever had that. So I'm excited to do something new on your very last meeting.
We're very appreciative.
All right. So we'll leave this meeting and sign out from there. We'll see you in executive session.
All right.
You're going to use mine.
You have to go back in the other room again. Take Mr. Gowan's computer.
I'm going to need it just a moment.
Oh, he'll bring it to you.
Okay, Mr. Gowan is seriously the DJ of technology. As he jumps from item to item.
He's in the restroom. He's in the restroom.
Just close the door behind you.